everybody, my name is Eon Slayers and this will be my first ever Vanguard Zero related content that I will upload on my YouTube channel. So today I'm gonna be talking about this specific witch deck that I used during our Vanguard Philippines tournament that was held yesterday on August 30. The Vanguard Zero Philippines is a community filled with Philippine players that plays the TCG, watch the anime, or play Zero. We share deck lists, we talk about memes, we talk about any other stuff Vanguard related and sometimes even non-Vanguard related things. So if you want to join, I'll leave the link to the Facebook group down below in the description, and just comment down if you want to be added or PM me directly once you join the Vanguard Philippine group and we'll add you to our group chat. So moving forward, this is also known as the Apollon-Witch deck. I use this deck to make top 8 at our Vanguard Philippines tournament. Given it's only about 21 players who joined, but making to top 8 is still very good in my own regards at least. So first of all, let's talk about the starter. The starter here is Little Witch Lulu. So Little Witch Lulu is a very important piece, of course. It's a very important piece of the Soulless type deck because once you write a grade 3, she automatically goes out of the soul, and then you can Soul Blast 2, which is essentially all your soul, to draw a card. So that's +1 in hand, +1 in field, and then you will easily get to your requirement of having no soul. Now for grade 1s, we will run 4 PGs as usual. Dark Cats is just for drawing into pieces. You don't really mind the opponent getting to draw cards as well. Dark Cat is just an easy on-place draw 1 card. Very simple and basic ability, that's why I like using it. 3 Geminis, specifically for Silent Tom, just to hit those 16k magic numbers. So Battle Sister Kokowa. Kokowa, when placed, you can look at the top card of your deck and then you can put it on top or bottom. So this can also be replaced with Lazeng Magus. Lazeng Magus is the 7k version that only allows you to look at the top card of your deck and put it back on top. So if you want to do a budget build, you can cut Kokowa right off and replace it with that. For grade 2, we have 3 Silent Tom. You can run 4 set of Silent Tom, a full set, or maybe even 2. But for me, a perfect balance would be 3 Silent Tom. And then I run 2 of Battle Sister Mocha. Battle Sister Mocha is an 11k attacker if you have 3 or more cards in hand. This deck actually does draw quite significantly and filters very much, so you would always have 3 cards in your hand either way. So she's just a good card to hit for magic numbers. So 12k attacker when there's no soul, very important, again hitting those magic numbers. And Rock Witch Gaga. So Rock Witch Gaga's ability, if there is no soul, if she attacks, mind that it doesn't have to hit. If she just attacks, you could get to draw 1 card from the top of your deck and then return 1 card from your hand to the bottom. So she helps in filtering triggers out of your hand back to the deck and get better cards like intercepts, boosters, and such. So she's a very important card, and you would always want her to be out on the field when you're finally on your grade 3 since you don't have a soul anymore. Moving on to the grade 3 lineup. So our main ride here, that's why it's called Apollon-Witch, is Oracle Guardian Apollon. Apollon's ability on Rearguard Circle, when this unit attack hits, you can Counterblast 2 to draw a card. So basically Maiden of Libra, but on a grade 3. On Vanguard Circle, when it hits, you can Counterblast 2, draw 2 cards, and then return 1 card from your hand back to the deck. So that's just another filtering ability. This synergizes well with Rock Witch Gaga and Kokowa. This card allows you to just filter, return all the triggers, all the cards that you don't need, then draw the cards that you need. You just have to stall out your opponent until you push them to 5 and hit them with Silent Tom. Now, the other slots are very debatable on which cards you would actually put. I would run Gentle Gem as heal because, for example, you don't have Apollon in your hand yet for some reason. You ride a grade 3 and then you ride Apollon on top of it. Now you have 1 card in your soul. This card will help you fix your soul and then give an extra 3k boost to like another card, like an intercept, or maybe even on a finishing turn. You can give it to Silent Tom just to hit over those ride numbers or like MLB with 12k, which are very, very annoying. So for the other slots, Coco is very debatable as well. Usually in a witch deck, you would want to run Scarlet Witch Coco, but Scarlet Witch Coco isn't relied on in this deck. Apollon is. So I just run 2 copies of her just for tech, just in case I don't get Apollon, because Coco's ability is, if you have no soul, she gains plus 3k, so she's a 13k attacker. And if once placed, if my soul has 1 or less cards, you can counterblast 2 to draw 2 cards. So that's an instant plus 2 on your hand. But this deck relies on filtering, so you can cut Coco off and replace her with Sky Witch Nana, which is actually very useful. A 13k attacker if there's no cards in the soul. And Goddess of Flower Divination, Sakuya is just there as a backup ride. So if I would want to fix the grade 3 lineup, I'll go for 4 Apollon, 4 Gems, 4 Sky Witch Nana, and then like 1 tech of Scarlet Witch Coco. I'll be moving forward for the video part. The trigger lineups, it's 4 draws, 5 stands. You would want the stands just for extra pressure and multiple attacks. And that actually helps out Rock Witch Gaga as well. If you stand Rock Witch Gaga, you can do an empty swing, meaning it won't really attack into anything. Just do an empty swing and you can still activate the filtering effect. Very, very useful. So I'll be moving forward now to the video of my gameplay during the tournament. One gameplay where I actually popped off really hard and I won my match, and another game where it didn't quite go so well and I lost very hard. You'll see the 2 sides of the coins of this kind of deck. It's filter reliant, piece reliant, and luck reliant. Keep that in mind if you want to try this deck out. So here we are with our first gameplay of the Vanguard Philippines tournament that I talked about earlier. So this is my first match on the first round against VPH, the Dark One, who uses a Narukami deck. Narukami is considered a direct counter to this deck, to my deck. And it's a counter to a lot of decks. It's a counter to Neo Nectar, can even be a counter to MLB, and can be also a counter to it itself. Narukami is just that good. Narukami is a deck that you'll use if you want to like climb rank very fast. It has the intercept ignores, it has the pressure, it has draw power. So you will always just want to be aggressive, which is quite the opposite with my Apollon-Witch deck that I'm using right now. So I didn't actually mulligan because even though Apollon is the first ride, I was afraid to just drop the cards that I have, because it is actually a pretty good hand. I have a grade 1, I have Rock Witch Gaga, not an ideal ride on grade 2. You'd want her to be on rear guard, and as I said that, I drew into another one. I have Gemini here and then Tom for that 16k base hit. So this video here shows how good the deck can be if you filter enough. Like, okay, we're going for his turn, riding the 8k vanilla right here, and then he's gonna swing at me for 1 damage. I whiff a stand, which is not good. You'd always want your stands in the deck, and you'd always want to hit those stands for multi-attack. Again, synergizes with Rock Witch Gaga and her filtering effect if you have multiple triggers in hand. I ride the Rock Witch Gaga here, and I believe once I plop down Dark Cat, I got another Dark Cat. So now, I put the Dark Cat again so that the opponent would overdraw next turn. And with my luck, I actually got a second Silent Tom. But I didn't... I was debating on putting a Silent Tom and pushing him on damage, but I decided not to. Because I might use Silent Tom again if my finishing turn fails, if he Miracle Heals, which is very possible. I always have another Silent Tom to hit for that second kill turn. So we're now both at 1 damage. It's a pretty slow start. It's how Vanguard usually goes. You just hit like 1 to 2 times per turn until you reach grade 3, and then your skills. Usually now you'll only see action once 4 to 5 damage occurs, because that's where Limit Break comes in. An early call of Rising Phoenix, and then a full board of intercepts. So a bit intimidating right there, but it's fine. Now the funny thing is here is I actually got a trigger here, so I got a draw trigger, and with that draw trigger, I denied his whole attack. Though I'm assuming the 10k here is just purely for the fact of defense. He didn't even put a booster. He could have swung with the 10k first, actually. So now, moving on, I have Apollon in hand because I drew into it, which is very good. Now this shall be where the turn where I do a lot of my filtering and combo. Riding Apollon, activating Ludu's ability to call her out to the rear guard, Soul Blasting 2, and drawing 2 cards. Drawing 1 card, sorry. Drawing into another gym, I wasn't really concerned at that time. I have Apollon as my Vanguard, I have Rock-Witch Gaga that can filter. I can essentially return those cards. Attacking with Rock-Witch Gaga first. With this deck, you would always want to attack with your front row first unboosted. You want to go for that stance and multi-attack as much as possible. Though it's still luck reliant. So it's not, inconsistency-wise, it's not that good. If I'm going to be honest, it's not that good. It's a budget deck. What are you gonna expect from a budget deck? So I got a heal trigger, and I'll give that to Rock-Witch Gaga, hoping for a stand. And guess what? I got a stand! Like, that's like one of the most perfect things that could happen right now. Because now I can filter again. Rock-Witch Gaga's ability will activate even if it doesn't hit, but at this point it will definitely hit, and I can get 2 filters off. From having 2 heal triggers in my hand, I have now 2 Silent Toms, 2 8k boosters, 1 PG, and 1 12k attacker. I didn't even mind that he healed, or I don't even mind that I have Coco in my hand. I can also return it next turn. I'm always checking the triggers. A tip when using this deck, you should always check your triggers. You always want to track how probable the possibility of checking a trigger drawing into your cards. It's still luck reliant, but knowing how much triggers or what cards are left in the deck does really help. And this tip also applies to all types of decks. You'd always want to check triggers. You'd always want to check your deck. Despite OTT being a stall deck, it can apply pressure. It can apply pressure if done right. There's different variants. There's the Tsukuyomi variant, there's the Battle Sister variant. I just went with this variant for the tournament because I thought it was fun. But in fact, I could have like chosen Battle Sisters to just fight. So he put 2 Rising Phoenix as boosters. He was forced to attack a rear guard because if one of his other cards hits me, I'm at 15k. And the other rear guard will only be 14k. So that's a misplay on his part. Or I've assumed that he doesn't have any boosters left in hand. So he's forced to call out the Phoenixes. So see, Vermilion then will attack me for my 3rd damage. He gains more draw triggers. And that's fine. He gains a double draw. At that point I was like, wow, you draw a lot. You already had Rising Phoenix activate and then you get a double draw. That's a lot of card advantage. But again, that doesn't mind me, except for that PG dropping. It never feels good for a PG to drop. So I was debating on whether to put Silent Tom in front just for pure intercept. But then I remembered, I'm fighting against Narukami. It would be essentially pointless to put a Silent Tom. I'll just save it for a kill turn. Or if I failed my first kill turn, I can go for a second one. I put in Apollon. I can put in Coco, but my mindset when I use this deck is if you start filtering through your cards, the first cards you want to return to your deck are the heals. The second cards that you want to return are the stands. Stand triggers allows you to do multi-attack, and that's how the deck applies pressure. The last things that you want to return are the draw triggers. This deck already draws a lot, so if you have to choose between a stand or a heal, return the heal. A stand or a draw, return the stand. That's how it goes. And if I want to put an intercept that's not, if I want to put a rear guard that's not an intercept, I'll likely put a draw trigger rather than a stand trigger, if I can. Using Apollon's ability, I drew into another PG. I drew a PG. So at this point, I'd have no triggers in hand. That's how powerful the filtering ability of this deck is. If you're lucky enough, or if you actually got into your pieces. There's no real searcher for this. You can't search out your Apollon. You can't search out the combo pieces. You just have to draw into them. You have to get lucky. Again, another possible misplay here. He attacked first with his Vanguard. He didn't attack with his rear guard with Rising Phoenix behind it. He puts the boost on the Shiden right there, the Desert Gunner. I mean, if I drew a defensive trigger, then his attack, the only attack that will pass through would be his 22k column with the 14k at front. So my opponent here did a lot of misplays. I finally went for it, putting Rock-Witch Gaga, check the top card using Cocoa. Again, that can be replaced with Lazeng Magus. And I saw it's a PG, so I put it on top, and then I'll put in Silent Tom just to scare the opponent, I guess, or just an extra intercept. And then Rock-Witch Gaga will attack first. With her ability, I can draw the PG and return like a booster. Now you can see how filtering really helps your deck out. You will most of the time have like all your triggers in decks and have all your necessary pieces in your hand. I get a whole heal trigger, so that's big. That's actually big, because now I'm assured, even if he limit breaks, I'm assured that I can actually try and win this. I can actually win this next turn. Now activate Apollon's ability again, and look at that, I draw into a PG, and I'll return Coco. I have now 3 PGs in hand. Using the filtering ability, I managed to get 3 PGs in hand, activate many useful triggers like the stands and the draws and the heals, without sacrificing my hand or even utilizing the soul whatsoever. There's nothing wasted. Then again, you have to be lucky. But that's like part of the thrill. It's like part of the fun. That's why I played this deck during the tournament. It's part of the fun of this deck. I already knew I won, because no matter what he does, he doesn't have any more heals. Even if he has all his PGs in hand, there would be no point. I have Silent Tom. I put on the boosters, attack with Apollon on rear guard, and then finish it off with Silent Tom. Usual business. Silent Tom goes bang bang. There's nothing you can do. If you don't have any heals in deck and you're at 5 damage, Silent Tom is gonna be what's gonna kill you. So that's the first match that I had. If now we're moving on to the second match where I didn't do so well. So here we are with my first match in the 3rd round of the tournament that I entered. This is against an OTT also, but it uses Tsukuyomi. So Tsukuyomi is still the superior version of any kind of OTT deck at the moment in global, because Tsukuyomi just filters and trig stacks a lot. You just can't go wrong with Tsukuyomi. There's a lot of variants. There's the stand variant, there's a critical variant, but my opponent does the stand draw variant, so we'll see how this plays out. I already don't have a good hand, as you can see. I already didn't have a good hand because I don't have Silent Tom, I have 1 PG, I do have a grade 2 and then Rock-Witch Gaga to put into the rear guard next turn, but I really didn't want to ride Jim. Okay, so at this deck I was still using Lazeng Magus because I only had like 2 Cocoa when I played this tournament. I got my 3rd earlier. Riding with Lazeng Magus, attacking. So since it's an OTT mirror match, it is gonna be a slow fight, and there won't be much happening at the start of turn. He whiffs a stance, that's nothing. He didn't get the grade 2 from deck, but he does ride it from hand, I think. And there was a delay with when I videoed this, so sorry about that. Attacking me for 1 damage, it's just a 1-on-1 hit, Vanguard to Vanguard. Now, I did a misplay here, so my Vanguard is 11k. My opponent is at 9k. I plopped down the 9k and I put the 8k booster behind the 9k instead of my Vanguard. So if my opponent did a defensive trigger, I wouldn't have hit. But gladly, I got a heal and I got away with it. Because my opponent didn't get a defensive trigger. So that's a big misplay on my part. That's a misplay on my part. But it ended up well. He's like a 3 damage, I'm like 0. I was like pumped up. Yeah, I can actually do this. I can actually fight back. But everything went south. You'll see why. So he does ride to his grade 3 Tsukuyomi. And standard Tsukuyomi's ability, Counterblast 2, you can draw 2 cards and put 1 card in your soul just to about fill up your soul and gain 1 card advantage. And then puts down like the 9k, an 8k booster behind, and then just a full board of intercepts and boosters, so that's fine. Makes sense attacking me with a rear guard first and getting an assured hit with the Vanguard. I am an 8k base during the opponent's turn. So he heals. Now I don't feel so good with this. So regard, I actually drew into my Apollon with a draw trigger that I initially had, so that's good. I have Apollon now, so I was like, okay, I'm confident. I have Apollon. I can actually do this. I can actually fight. And I actually put the PG down because in my mind at that time, I said, well, I'm up against OTT. I don't really need the PG, right? Then I start filtering and I draw into Apollon. Fantastic, but that's fine. I return the heal. Apollon is a draw trigger. I can still utilize that next turn. Then I attack with my Vanguard into a rear guard. Nope, no trigger. And there we go, I got a stand. But that stand is wasted. That stand is wasted. Because it's 14k either way. If I give it to Rock-Witch Gaga, it will hit, but my rear guard won't. My rear guard with the PG won't hit. So I just gave it to the rear guard with the PG. And then I'll activate Apollon's ability. I was like, okay, please give me something good. Please give me something good. And I draw into a heal and stand. Now you can see how luck reliant this deck is. It's so luck reliant. So I had to do just a normal swing. I'll only be able to push him to 3 damage. He gets a stand, a whiff stand. I'm happy about that. And then Rock-Witch Gaga swings in, empty. And look at that. I draw into another heal. And I was forced to return it. Because again, mindset. Heals over stands, stands over draws, draws over anything else. Well, PGs too, but you want to keep your PGs in hand as well. But against an OTT, you could prioritize other cards. Now, moving on with his turn, he actually started filtering hard with this. Drawing 2 cards again, putting 1 card into the soul. The 10k that when attacks, it can filter. So, you can see this is a 20k column right here. So, it will hit, even if I get a defensive trigger, which is so sad. So, I was hoping like, okay. And will you look at that? You didn't quite see it because it lagged, but my opponent got like a stand trigger and then a heal trigger. I was like, why? Partly because my opponent is lucky and partly because he's been actually filtering, I suppose. Hasn't soul charged a lot of triggers. So I was pushed to like 4 damage that turn. I was forced to call out Apollon. I even drew into another Coco. I was checking out my triggers. I was so frustrated. Like, what in the hell am I even gonna do? So I decided to stick with Apollon. Like, why didn't you just ride Coco? Well, I was trying to go with my filter tactic. You know, hoping to filter into cards that will help me filter even more. Because this deck centers around filtering. So I was debating on using his ability because that's the card, but I just decided to just do the draw 2, drop 1. Because now at this point I was afraid. I was afraid to draw 2 cards. And I think that kind of backfired. I draw 2 more cards and I draw into a draw. Again, so I return the stand. But I did get a Rock-Witch Gaga. I pushed him to 4. Okay, I pushed him to 4. But I'm also at 4 with no intercepts. I'm a 10k base. He has an 8k booster. I think we can sum things up. Yeah, I'm dying next turn. Let's just skip to the part. So I was like, there we go, Silent Tong. So just an empty swing on me. and then we'll add salt to the wounds, get a stand trigger. Of course, give it to Silent Tom. And then I activate the PG, Silent Tom hits me, and I don't get the heal trigger. Because I've been drawing them earlier. So now you can see the two sides of this deck. One side, if you manage to get all your pieces, if you filter right, this deck is just triggers left and right. Now if you get unlucky and draw your triggers, if your triggers goes to your hand faster than you can filter them, that's gonna be the problem. You can always try this deck out, alter it to what suits you. You can swap out the triple R's, you can swap out the grade 3s. I think the grade 2s and grade 1s are pretty much standard. But that's it. So thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment, like, even suggest me some unique things that I can upload as content. So that's all. See you in the next video. Thank you and bye-bye.